Hello and welcome to another episode on Roscast. So, if you listen to the previous podcast I did, you must have observed that there was no background, no any background music, or just simply plain. I remember it was the very first podcast that I did that such a thing was done, and I think there were a few other podcasts that I didn't make any background music. And if you've been following Roscast for a while, you must have realized that gradually, initially, I was playing like music that I was enjoying. I think I did that for almost a year or two before I stopped because I just didn't want copyright problems. And now again, I'm actually getting into the era of not even using anything at all. Like I'm not going to be using any background sound. So you're just going to be hearing pure voices. But because I'm not so good at talking for too long, if it's not in person, and I don't want to be, you'll be hearing me swallowing my spittle, I'll have to be breaking my podcast. But anyway, probably you never noticed it. But just in case you are a regular listener on Roscast and you notice that there's no more those background music and background sounds, yeah, it's intentional and I'm stopping it. And also because there have been changes that have been coming up on the platform I'm using, so it's actually limiting my usage of such things. And I think let me just get used to it before it is probably stopped on the platform. So this is an intro before the main intro, but I just wanted to give this just in case you're one of the few people that really enjoyed such things. I'm sorry if you enjoyed having those background music behind. I'm sorry it's not going to be happening again. But if you did not really care, then good for us. Yes, that's good for us. Now let's go into the main intro of today's topic. Hello and welcome here. So, one of the things that I did to my settings on my podcast was automatically share my podcast on my YouTube channel. So, if you are watching this from my YouTube channel, that's the reason why, because there's an automatic posting here. So, with that, it kind of made me a little bit um drawback. Like I don't want to share exactly the same thing that I'm sharing, because in the past there were a few topics that I shared exactly the same topic on my YouTube channel, and I also did a podcast version. But I often just like did a link up so that if anybody wanted to listen to it off YouTube, the person could do that. But seeing the changes that I made, probably to also give my podcast a much broader audience as well, I did that setting. However, why am I telling you all this information? Well, I've been doing a YouTube series on singlehood and my perspective on marriage, and a friend reached out to me and was like, "Oh, this topic is something good for a podcast." And I love podcasting. I love talking about things that are very relevant to me, and I believe that are also relevant on a larger scale. And when that friend gave me that push, I was like, I love podcasting. And I was like, okay, I don't want to do this exactly like what I'm doing on YouTube. But I will just make this podcast sort of like a much more summarized version compared to what was shared on YouTube. And on this podcast, I would be, it's just going to have a similar theme. If you've been following the series I did on why when you marry, I titled it When You Marry, and I've shared a number of videos on it. And if you've not watched them, don't worry, I handle different aspects under it, and this podcast is not going to try to repeat exactly that. Like I said, some may be watching this on YouTube, and if you are paraventure only listening to it on Spotify or any of your podcast listening stations or apps, I'm just saying this for those that may be watching directly from YouTube. So yes, today's topic is titled "When Will You Get Married?" And when we get married, and if you are from West Africa or from Africa or from any very cultural part of the world, let me just not relegate this to a part of the world. But I don't think this question is a strange topic to single people. I think let me not relegate to a specific culture, because I think every part of the world once you're a single person, you have to deal with this question. So this is not actually a strange question. It's not something very new. It's not a new topic. It's not a new question. Once you're single, you certainly get to have this question asked you at least once in a while. Somebody's going to try and ask you this question. So yes, I'm going to do the podcast version and I'll be writing in. So let's begin. So the other day on YouTube, somebody that I have not talked to in a very, very long time sent me a message and was like, "Are you married?" I didn't know how to answer that question and I can't even remember the answer. The answer I gave. I remember I took my time before penning down an answer. Because I don't really use Facebook Messenger a lot, I don't usually remember to answer people there. And sometimes when I do, I may not really remember what the conversation was about. So, and I kind of felt weird because I was like, well, like you haven't spoken to me in a while. Why would that be something that you are so eager to ask if I'm married? Like, what are you doing using that to do? And by the way, the person asking me this question obviously was not asking me for a personal interest. It was more or less like a checkup question because the person is not a single person and is a senior person. So I just felt like awkward, like why this question? I just didn't know how to answer that question. However, I'm going to count myself as one of the privileged people who doesn't get bombarded with this question a lot. I have senior friends who once in a while check up on me to ask, oh, is anything happening in your life? Like, are you in a relationship or something like that? More or less, like maybe they just want to know. And then I give them tea, and just give them a little bit of what is happening and share with them a bit, depending on my relationship with them, share a little bit more. However, like I said, I'm one of privileged people who doesn't get bombarded with this question everywhere and every time. Maybe because a lot of people may think that, okay, somebody like you is not single. And surprise, I give them a surprise. I'm like, oh, I'm actually enjoying myself. Yes, I think I am. However, if you're a single person, if you're a single person, this is a question that a lot of people may have asked you. Ask you when will you get married, especially if you are within the age where there's a lot of expectation on you to probably even have children. Like if you're already been expected to have children, this is a question that will be brought up. There'll be curiosity about your romantic life. And to be honest, I don't think it's a question that I personally will feel offended by. Unless, like I said, I only feel awkward, especially if it's coming from someone that I'm not close to or I have not been keeping in touch with and who doesn't really know much about my current state. However, from people that I'm close to and who have been involved in my life in a more intimate way, when they are curious about my romantic life, I don't feel like bad about it because possibly their approach is much more respectful and also helps me to engage them a little bit more on what is going on. So I think it's a question that once you get to a particular age, you kind of expect that question to be asked. So it's not an odd question. It's not a question out of place. It's just a societal expectation of you. However, it's true. Some people actually cross their boundaries and some people feel that they have the right to determine or like have a say on what goes on in your life, even if you don't know what is actually going on. And sometimes that may actually make their questions a little bit more offensive and more disrespectful because of their approach. What am I just trying to say? I'm saying this question is not an odd one. And we also, at some point had expectations of ourselves, depending on how old you are currently. But I do believe we had expectations of ourselves or when we want to get married and have children. And we kind of have in the back of our mind that if it is something that you want, it is something you're also looking forward to. Now, continue from where I stopped. I want to say that as a single person, if somebody asks you when will you get married, I don't think your first approach should be one of disgust. You may feel awkward like me if it's from somebody that you are actually wondering why are you curious. But I also think it's one that you should always respond wisely, like respond in a way that is wise because some people are actually just curious about your life, not because they care, but because they just feel they need to know things about your life. And so if it's an area of your life that you are very sensitive about, possibly you're actually disappointed about your relationship status of not being married or not being in a relationship, I think it's something that can trigger you to respond in a way that actually shows that you are struggling. And I don't think a wise thing to do is to show your vulnerability to somebody who actually does not care. I think that's not a wise thing to do, because it's only going to heighten the pain or the disappointment or discomfort that you are feeling. The kind of people that you should share such a vulnerability with should be people that actually want to help, that actually want to be part of your life in a healthy way. So I think it's a question that, when it is asked as a single person, should be responded to with a lot of wisdom. So that means that before somebody asks you, know what to say. Have an answer in mind to give. It's a question that you need to answer wisely. Now, in the vlog series that I did, like the YouTube series that I did, I said a lot of things, I said a lot of perspective, and I tried to really approach it in a way that, as much as possible, I wanted to be balanced. That means I shared from my theoretical aspect and what I'm taking more or less like my theological aspect as well, but I also tried to balance it with my with reality of what I'm facing as a person and the reality of how I feel about it. However, one of the things I keep learning even in this journey is that um you are the one that we are the ones who determine how we allow things to shape us, including relationships, including our approach to the romantic aspect of our lives. And it's a very big responsibility, and it's something that I'm realizing that, girl, this is actually tough work. It's tough work where you cannot blame somebody else for the direction your life is taking, where you need to actually take responsibility for your decisions. And it's actually tough work, because when you get to that place of learning not to blame other people for your life or your decisions, I think it makes you a little bit more intentional. It makes you reflect more, and it also makes you to find experiences that you go through as something that you are willing to improve on. So when you reflect back on your relationships or with people, or your near relationships, it makes them not say you. Let me personalize it now. It makes me want to see, okay, where did I make mistakes? Where did I go wrong? How can I make it better for a future occurrence? So more or less, that makes me more self-aware and willing to learn. Now, I learned from a recent experience that, I was sharing sometime on Twitter Space. I recently became a bit more active on Twitter Space as a way to just learn to connect with more people. And I was sharing on one of the spaces there that, one, that heartbreak is not really a bad idea, because everybody can learn from it. Like, it's a hard learning, and it teaches you a lot about yourself. About it actually shows you how emotionally mature you are as well. I think heartbreak actually shows you how emotionally matured you are, and how you're able to actually handle very difficult emotional experiences. So I was like, heartbreak is not a really bad idea. Yeah, and I also shared that relationships also, some difficult relationships or relations that not pulled through also teach you areas of your life where you actually need to work on. And for me, that's something that I actually, I have come to appreciate a little bit more about difficult relationships, or about relationships that didn't go as planned, was that if I really look at the nature of some of these relationships, there are actually things that I actually needed to work on, things that I kind of numbed and ignored, and I could see God using those relationships as a tool, even at the long run. So I also saw it as a way of getting humbled as well, and it also made me to certain principles or certain ideologies that I strongly believe in. It also taught me not to waver from them and not to compromise on them. It showed me how much my value was important, and especially when those values are founded on the Word of God, the principles of who God is and what He requires of me as a Christian, There are values that I shouldn't compromise, because at the end of the day, I'm only going to regret doing that. So if there are strong standard principles that you know has helped your life to be better than it was before, a relationship should not be the one to steal that value away. Unless if you know that that value that you're upholding is not a healthy one. So a good relationship will help you to redefine or to discard that. But if you know it's actually a value that has helped you in a healthy and a positive way, your relationship should not spoil it, should not make you compromise on those values, because regardless of that relationship, you are still an individual. And being in a relationship should not take away your personal identity. You only come to contribute and cooperate and be an addition to the other person, just as much as the other person should be an addition to you. So one of the humbling things that I've had to learn as a single person is the fact that we can make our plans, we can have our ideologies, we can have our picture and all the things that we dream about, but it doesn't always mean that those things will materialize exactly as we wanted. Sometimes you have to face the hard truth that what you want may be a bit more difficult to get than other people. Maybe because of the kind of standards you set for yourself, it doesn't make it easy for you to attain exactly what you want, just like other people, because other people are not working on the same standard that you set. Then if I bring it down to being a Christian, I realize that being a Christian is such an important value for me, and actually being a very big factor in guiding how I approach romantic relationships. And the older I have gotten, the more I'm realizing that being a Christian and my Christian value is actually a negotiable. I've tried a few times to see if I could downplay some of these things, but I realized at the end of the day, without my Christian values being a priority, I couldn't just like go further with certain romantic interest. So my Christian value played a lot, and I realized that in order for me to be content even as a single person, I have to always review certain things that I hold on to. And so if my Christian values are non-negotiable, it actually creates an avenue for me to still feel content, regardless of how a you know a there's a word I'm looking for. Sorry. I'm at a perspective, that's the word. A prospective romantic interest can pull through. Now, another very non-negotiable that I actually did not realize was actually very important to me until I had a few experiences was character. I realized the character, certain kinds of character, was a big turn off for me. And it became much more important when it was a prospective romantic interest. And if it was just somebody that probably I consider just a platonic friend or a colleague or just a passerby, I wouldn't have like put a lot of emphasis on it compared to if the person was a romantic interest. So these are the things that I realized that even in this in season of my life and navigating romantic relationships and being a single person, I realized there are things that I've not seen myself wanting to compromise. And I believe that knowing what you can compromise means it is something that you are willing to continually overlook. At least I believe that's my understanding of it. So if what you are willing to compromise on is something that you are willing to overlook and grow a thick skin over time, then good for you. Because the truth is that there are certain things that we can actually predict, we can look into. There are certain current things that you know yourself, like this is something that I know I can either not live without, or I know that I won't be able to tolerate. It's something that I know that is going to be a difficult thing for me to tolerate. So if that is the case, why would you want to push your head into it? Because at the end of the day, it's only going to cause unnecessary difficulty for you because you already knew. So there are certain things that can't be compromised on, and I have some of those things. Some of those things are not necessarily things that are compulsory, but there are things that I know that it's not really a big deal. And recently I was in a conversation with a close person, and we were bringing out some of these things, and the person was like saying, oh, this is something for me, is something that I don't think I really would want. And I was like, For me, I actually don't mind. Not that I like it, but I feel like, okay, if this other person has like other core values in check, this is not actually a big deal for me. Something I know I can overlook. Yes, that is it. So I believe a compromise is what you can ignore. And if it doesn't change, you can actually just continually overlook it. But if it's something that you know you cannot overlook, if it's something that it forms a core of your person, that affects your core roots, I think it's something that you shouldn't overlook when trying to get into a relationship with somebody. I want to be careful. I'm not trying to advise anybody right here on a relationship. However, like I said before, the reason why I'm doing this podcast is because my friend encouraged me, and I felt like, okay, I really want to do a podcast on it as well. And I'm also coming from another angle. Most likely, I didn't share most of these things on my YouTube series, so don't worry. You're not listening to the same thing. You're listening to something different. So yes, I do believe this a compromise and negotiables, non-negotiables, and depending on whoever the other romantic interest could be as well, there would always be a place where now the two parties can agree on. The two people can agree on. Now, in a society where there's a timeline for so many things in life, I think like one of the things that I have to continually learn, which has not been an easy learning, is the fact that my timeline is in God's hand. And I have to learn to trust that God has a timeline for me, which may not be exactly what I'm seeing for myself. But if I'm willing to trust God with my timeline, everything will make sense at the end of the day. So one Bible verse that I've used a little bit more is Proverbs chapter 3 from verse 5 to 6. And if you're a Christian that reads the Bible a lot, or you've been conversant with this Bible passage, you know it's a trust the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, on your ways acknowledge him, and he will guide your path. For me, in as much as it's good to plan your life, have timelines for yourself, it's also good to actually know what is God requesting of me in this season of my life. What is God working on me on? What is God signaling to me? And how can I be very intentional so that I don't waste the season that I am in? How can I maximize and how can I prepare myself for what I am hoping for? I'm still in that process. There are a lot of times that I feel pumped up and I'm like, oh yeah, let's get it. And other times or more, I really don't do anything productive. Like I'm not there. I am not there. I'm tired of this. I'm actually looking for someone to take care of me. I'm not there. But I just have to keep on reminding myself that I believe that is a season and I can make most use of it so that when the season is over, I can actually go back and I'm grateful that I did so, because I haven't had experiences where I could look back and I'm like, I'm grateful that I actually made use of that time. So I know what it feels like to be grateful that I maximize a particular time in my life. And I believe the single season is also that time to maximize your youth, enjoy yourself in a healthy way, in a positive way, contribute very positively, very well, because marriage can also have its own responsibilities and may take away some opportunities for you that you had in your single life. Like that's the reality that comes with living a single season. And also I'm also having to learn that you need to continually know how to answer sensitive questions, not just the one that people ask you, but to yourself. Sensitive questions like, okay, in as much as I may desire a romantic relationship, I would desire a person. I want to be in a relationship. I want to be. I know I want to have all those love feels and all that stuff. The questions that come up, like, are you willing to just be with anybody because of this is how you feel? Are you willing to go back to that ex that you know is toxic to you? Are you willing to encourage certain things that you know constantly depreciates you, all because of what you desire? Are you willing to toss your self-respect aside? You have to choose and answer this question. You have to choose your answers. You need to choose the answers to this question to yourself, because it's going to be asked of you from the outside world. You're going to have people that would make you have to answer that question by the decisions that you make. So at the end of the day, you have to make up your mind what you really want. And sometimes also the questions may come like, if it means being single a little bit longer because you know that you don't just want to settle, are you willing to pay the price? Are you willing to do that? Or are you willing to just hop on the train so that you can just be done with this season? Now, the truth of the matter is that, one of the things that I love about difficult experiences, which is weird to say, is that, when you go through difficult experiences, it makes you a bit more confident when you are over them. And I sometimes feel like I'm more encouraged by people that have been single a little bit more than those who really been single for long. I don't know, probably just my prejudice. I feel like people that have actually went through a more difficult a single season, or were probably had a lot of difficult relationships, or were single a little bit longer. I feel like the ability to really understand what it feels like to be single, why hoping for a romantic relationship, I feel like they really get you. Now, I'm not trying to say that if that's not your case, you can't give advice or encourage, not at all. But I just feel like for me, going through my single season, I feel like it's really giving me a lot of edge. And I think like when I finally get married, I'm going to have so much gems. Like I'm going to have a lot of gems to give. I'm going to have a lot of big advice. So get ready for me, because a lot of big advice is going to come. Also, I think the single season has also taught me to be very humble. Like to be humble and to be careful of how I'm giving advice, because it's not just easy breezy like that. Like you don't need to put yourself on a pedestal when you know you're still going through it. And that's why I had to keep repeating on the vlog series that I'm not giving people tips on how to get into a relationship or how to approach a relationship. These are just my perspective and I'm working with. So I think being a single person and going through my own experiences so far has actually taught me to be a bit more sensitive, more humble, and more open as well, knowing that you are going through it. So you are not trying to be better than any other person. But of course, when this season is over, or more, I will give people advice. So you guys should be ready for me, because advice is going to come. Get ready for me. But anyway, I think single season is a very interesting season, and there's a lot of exploration to do. You need to really learn to find joy. Not just find joy, you need to learn how to be in joy. You need to learn to handle your emotions, difficult emotions. One other thing about being single is that, or being in single season, is that you actually need to develop how you deal with your emotional difficulties, because even if you have family members you can share with, you don't have that romantic partner that you can quickly run to and pour everything out. You have to sit down and deal with your stuff. So it actually gives you opportunity to actually, handle your emotions well, like by yourself, in a better way. Like you're not depending on anybody to fix that up for you. Except you have a best friend that is like you are in a romantic relationship with. I don't know. But I don't that sounds weird. But you have to learn to deal with your difficult emotions by yourself. And there's something that a lot of young people these days, a lot of young single people, people are not really truly being single. Like people find it hard to be truly really single. Like even if they claim to be single, they're in one or two things that look like relationships that are not relationships. And I don't think that's been a healthy way, because you have not really learned the true art of being single. So, and because of how God has made us, we are relational beings. Like, relationships is a natural part of how we can cope and deal with difficult things in life and grow. And I think that's one of the things that make being single a little bit difficult, because when you're in a romantic relationship, you sort of have this person that you've picked out and that has picked you, and you sort of, it's like a person that you should be able to share your life with, your memories, your good experiences, and all of that. Someone you can rant with, you can plan with, and all of that. And when that doesn't seem to be a reality, it actually feels like something is missing. And it feels like you are being left out, and you can't really find somebody exactly you can share with. You may have friends, but they may be busy for you. Your family may be busy, and it's just like it feels left out. And I think that's one of the things that makes being single difficult. But then perspective matter a lot, and the perspective that we take into any season of our life would always matter. So if you see your single season as a burden, as a punishment, I think that is how you would always approach it, even when difficult things are happening. But if you see it as a season of learning yourself, of building yourself, yes, there may be difficult times, but you wouldn't allow the sense of difficulty you are facing to cloud the whole experience. So even though there may be time you may be feeling like, oh, I need somebody, oh, I wish I was in a relationship, you wouldn't always let that be your perpetual feeling. So you gradually learn to balance the emotions, and sometimes you tell yourself, okay, girl, stand up, or guy, stand up, or let's get this thing done. And you not just be like, oh, I just want to be with somebody, and all of that. You won't let that cloud your judgment. So I think perspective matters, and the perspective in singlehood matters a lot. And that's why some of us may look like, oh my goodness, we're having a splendid time. It's not because we don't have difficult times as well. It's just because we are having a healthier perspective, we are teaching ourselves to have a brighter perspective even in our singleness. So being a single should not make you a hater of people in relationship. Like I said in one of the vlog, that is just pure jealousy. If you express that, if you like demean people's love and expression of love or relationship because you are single, I think that just makes you unnecessarily a hater. It's not necessary. Like just because other people are displaying their expression of love, it shouldn't undermine you, shouldn't make you feel less of yourself. Like if you never want to be in a relationship, then that's fine. But if it's something you're actually looking forward to, I do believe that when it's your turn, you wouldn't want somebody like demeaning what you are going through, your experience and all of that. So I believe that being a single should not make me a hater, should not make me feel like, oh, these guys are being too much or any of that. Also, I know that single people, like they said, they have choked us so much. Married people or people in relationship like to make single people feel weird. Yes, I know single people have actually had the short end of the stick, and the reason why there's sort of like single people want to make it claim that, oh, we are feeling good, we are feeling better. But the truth is, just let everyone be honest with themselves. Don't try to live your life proving something to somebody. If you're a single person and you want to have a relationship, it's a great desire. Like I said, God made us to be relational beings, and companionship is a beautiful part of life. And if any of us have ever been in a relationship or we've been in close relationship with other people, we know how much companionship like suits our nervous system, and how it just really helps you when life is not that easy and stressed out. So it's a good thing to desire to be in a relationship with, but doesn't mean that married people or people in a relationship are the bad guys. No, it doesn't mean that is it. So, but anyway, if you are in a relationship or married, please, you guys should stop choking us. Please have mercy on us. Stop choking us. And stop choking us. Have mercy on us. But anyway, as a single person who loves love, who loves romance, I love to see healthy expression of love. I think it's always beautiful when people are able to share their good experiences with love, with their partners. It's also always something when I see warms my heart, and it makes me like feel happy. Also makes me feel hopeful as well. Um Another few little thing I'll address is the fact that there's a lot of trauma that may need to be processed or worked through. But I would say that into that, there's a lot of it depends on having faith that your own story will be different. This is an ideology that I picked up while I was in medical school. And I remember, whenever I approached any class and I'm like, my goodness, this class is a difficult class, or what I've perceived. But then I'll see somebody that has passed that class and I'm like, okay, if this person can pass, then so can I. And I think it's an ideology I've carried over that time. And I think until now is a positive and healthy mindset that has been working for me. And I think it's one I should actually hold on to. So in as much as currently the marriage scene, currently a lot of stories that are not very favorable are out there, or we may have gone through experiences that are not positive, that has made us feel a little bit careful, we are kind of protective of ourselves. Faith is important. Like, we need to believe that ours will turn out well, that God will help us, God will lead us right, God will grant us wisdom. We'll be sensitive, we will not be desperate, we will not jump into just anything, and we will not be unnecessarily jealous or envious of other people and try to make a point. But like, we would get into relationships because we want to be in a relationship with the person involved, and because we are willing to be committed and we are willing to pursue that relationship with our hearts, with the faith that ours will also turn out well. So I think that's another thing for me in singlehood, is to build faith for a good relationship and believe God that, when romance does come, it's going to come in a good way, and it's going to be something that will be enjoyed, not endured. So I believe single is also a season to prepare our hearts for good things, for good experiences. Hopefully that will also get to experience it as well. So don't worry, even as a single person, I'm not a hater for any love or expression. I enjoy seeing them, but at the same time, I don't think I need to prove a point in my romantic life. And so when I'm asked that question, I'm not trying to prove a point to somebody that, um I'm there, I'm going to experience that, or I'm good, I'm okay. Like, even when I express that I am enjoying my singlehood, is not to make a point to anybody, but it is a reality that I'm choosing to accept. It's a reality I'm choosing to work with. Knowing that by God's grace, it's going to be a season that I'm going to maximize as much as possible. And of course, everything cannot be learned at once. Some things certainly will not be learned in single season. So, the truth, one of the things that, an ideology I had in the past that I think was not a realistic one, was thinking I was going to gather enough information. But the truth is that some things will keep on coming up with time. Some things can only be learned in a relationship with somebody, and single season doesn't mean you learn every single thing. So there must be the space to just accept that there are just some things you cannot learn. But then, as much as can be learned, let there be a learning process. um don't focus on your ignorance, be willing to learn, have an open mind. And that thing again, like I already said earlier, is that just stand firm in what you truly believe in of your heart. Truly believe, stand firm on it, because at the end of the day, it is you, it is your life, and you should be responsible for the choices that you make intentionally. There's a lot of uncertainty, but as a Christian, one of the things that I'm trusting the Lord and holding on to the Lord is that I know that even in my uncertainties, even in my questioning, even in my longing, that I can trust in God for my future. And that brings me to the point to say that for me, making God my priority will always be a very major thing for me, because I know there are times where I cannot depend on another person. I can't even trust myself. I can't even, depend on myself or what I think. I have to go back to God for my daily strength, for my daily, upliftment. I'm like, God, help me. God, today's tough. I need your help. I need your encouragement. And God is good. God always answers that prayer. So I believe now is the season to actually love God so much and hold on to God more and depend on Him for that daily strength and encouragement, and to put oneself out there in the right spaces and just do the thing you need to do, and find a way to enjoy yourself, find a way to encourage yourself, find a way to hype yourself, you know People sometimes see some people, probably some people like us, and they'll already expect, oh, everything is all right and everything. Yes, everybody may think like you're carrying it so well, but they don't. Not everybody needs to know that you have cried privately. Not everybody needs to know that you are struggling like this. So be very wise with who you also share your struggles with. I have someone I share my struggles with, and I think whenever I finish sharing and it always end in the word of God, I feel much more refreshed than if I just shared anyhow. Um, However, I know that what God is interested in is how much, my life is shaped to His word. Now, I think it's not looking like as if I'm not talking about this, but yeah, these are actually some of the principles that I'm willing to continue on and trust God on. Another thing that's coming to my heart, which I shouldn't forget, is prayer. I strongly, truly believe in prayer, and prayer should not be ignored. And recently, I was sharing with someone very close to me, and I was like, okay, rather than holding on to this, why don't we pray about it? So, prayer, and there's a lot of refining that God is doing. One of the things I strongly believe is that people who go through difficult times come out very wise if they allow that experience to make them wise. And so, sometimes when we hear certain people speak the way they speak, when they speak in a way that sounds so profound, so deep, it's because sometimes they've actually gone through really difficult experiences that made them gain that perspective. There are certain perspectives we cannot gain if we don't go through certain difficult experiences. So it's like you can't get good things easy. Like good things come at a price, rare things come out of rare experiences. So as much as the many juices that can be taken from a single season, be deeper wise, let that be maximized, so that it's like you don't waste all this suffering and time that you spent, you maximize the time. So yes, I do believe that for anyone listening to this podcast, you're a romantic enthusiast, and you're not in a relationship, you're hoping for a relationship, or in a relationship and you're hoping towards for the future, please, whatever healthy perspective that you've been gaining, please don't lose it. Continue to build on it. When you have the opportunity to share or encourage somebody, please don't hold that back. Share that. Be an encourager, because what you are going through would always be a strength for someone else. I think I shared so much on this topic. I think I shared a little bit more. And like I said, what was shared on this topic is not exactly what was shared on the vlog series. Two different perspective, like just a little bit I chipped in, but yes, it's not the same. And I think actually approached this I love the way I approached this. Like I'll share with people in my close circuit that I really hype myself. I do that whenever I wake up in the morning, and I'm very intentional when I'm getting ready for my day. I dress like I'm happy with myself. It doesn't matter if I'm going anywhere or nowhere. I make sure that I feel good about myself before I go out. Sometimes, no matter how hard the day before was, and I think it's a very healthy mindset I've created for myself, and I'm happy with that mindset. I always make sure I put my perfume that I love. I like give myself the look that I want, the way I like it. And I think it has always helped me to just like have a fresher perspective, even if I'm not feeling good for that day. So I want to say that thank you for being here, and I'm grateful and thankful to God for the opportunity to share. And like I always said, if you've not subscribed to my podcast platform, kindly do. It's free, no nothing. If you are watching this as a vlog, yes, the subscribe button is actually there. Just click it. It's not hard to find. Click that and be part of the team. Thank you for being part of this um platform. And also, I should not forget, if you know there'll be somebody that will listen to this and their heart to be blessed, their heart to be encouraged, please do not hesitate to share it to them. Wow, that's the lovely thing for you to do. Kindly share to them so that they can be encouraged. If you have anything you would like to share, if you feel like, I want to give my perspective on this topic, don't hesitate. If you're on YouTube, give me your comment on the YouTube comment section. If it's on the podcast platform, find a way to send me an email, or find me on any of my social media platform. that will create a very big conversation for us, and I will gladly engage you. So, with that being said, thank you for being here. Thank you for listening to until this point. And until next time on Rosecast, continue to stay safe and God bless. Bye bye.